Okay, it's Jeremy Miner. Welcome to the live sales training call. Today we are Tuesday, August something. I think it's August 16th, 4 p.m. Eastern. Now, real quick today's training, we're going to go over something extremely important. I've had some questions on this last week, so I wanted to address it. A lot of you guys have been asking me, like, hey, I'm starting some of my sales conversations, and sometimes certain clients that have, major egos bring up the objection of, before I really even go into anything or ask any questions, they're asking me like, well, hey, why should we go with you, or why should we go with your company? So today we're going to address how to help them overcome that and find out really what is behind that actual concern. Now, real quickly, I'm on my cell phone here. We're actually traveling today, so I want to make sure this is working properly for you guys. Hold on one second. Can everybody hear me clearly? Real quick, one of you just press *6 on your phone to unmute yourself and just.
I can hear you, Jeremy. It's Chuck. I can hear you.
All right, appreciate it, Chuck.
Sure.
Okay, so Chuck, go ahead and mute back out if you don't mind. So like I said, welcome to the call. I'm actually in Arizona today. We're traveling out here with our video team. We're producing some good content here for our coaching platform that launches September 30th, where many of you that choose to go into even deeper in learning the new model of selling, even past the 8-week academy, will have the opportunity to be trained one-on-one with with one of my coaches that actually has been trained one-on-one by me. That each make at least a minimum of $250,000 a year in their sales career that I personally train. Many of these guys that I'm going to train you guys made well over $500,000. Some of them became 7-figure earners after I trained them as well. So we're in town, Arizona here, filming all that. So this call today, normally we do 90 minutes. I'm going to cut it much, much shorter because my video team is actually staring at me right now wondering what the heck I'm doing. All right, so we're going to keep this call probably to about 30, 40 minutes maximum because the video crew is waiting on us today, okay? So real quick, I'm going to read something that one of our members posted. He actually shared it on one of our Facebook groups, so that was pretty cool. We get a lot of these testimonials every day. People respond to our ads on Facebook, or they respond to different posts from ads we've placed, or older ads, or even they'll post something in the private members area if you're a member of some of the products about really the level they're getting at in their sales ability by going through the training. So we get these all the time. We probably get 50 plus of these a day in different areas. Most of them come on our ads. People going through the 21-day sales challenge, people going through the 8-week academy. So I'm going to share with you what this gentleman actually said in his article that he posted about an hour and a half ago on LinkedIn. He shared it with me. I think he shared it with the group. So I'm going to read that for you guys for a second, and I want you to really think about what he's actually saying here because it's pretty cool stuff. Hold on one second, guys. Let me actually get that online here. Hold on. Log into Facebook. Hope everybody's having a great summer. It is freaking hot here in Arizona, guys. It's like freaking 109 today or 110. I don't even know. And they say that that's not even really that hot. So it's kind of crazy. Hold on one second. All right, here we are. Perfect. Let's see here. Let me pull it up, guys. It's taking a little bit of its time here where I'm at. I've got my pocket Wi-Fi. Hold on. Okay, guys, like I said, I'm pulling up this article from one of our members that wrote it. I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to kind of think about what this gentleman is actually saying here because it definitely applies to everybody on this call real quick. So, like I said, let me pull this article up. My internet's going a little bit slow today for some reason. Hold on. Okay, perfect. So this gentleman's name, if you're on, he actually posted on the 21-day sales challenge group. So if you've bought, I think we let you have it for like $1 or $7, kind of cheap. If you're a member of the 21-day sales challenge, you can actually go read this article there. For those of you who are 8-week academy members that have all of the training outside the live events and one-on-one coaching we do, you'll have to go to the 21-Day Sales Challenge group to read this. So here's what Robbie says. His name's Robbie Burr. I believe Robbie is in Australia. I don't know that for sure, but I believe he's in Australia. Here's what he says. He says, "Hey, everyone. I've been in this group for a couple months now, but was yet to introduce myself. Although I haven't gone through the entire training yet, and when I actually messaged him, he said he's a member of the 8-Week Academy as well, but he's only gone up to week 4 of the Academy. So he's just barely learning, actually, if he's only gone to week 4. But he says, I found that the core principles to have a very positive effect on the attitudes of my prospects. I'd invite you to read my story that I shared on LinkedIn recently, which shows the results of Jeremy's training of focusing on your prospects' problems. Maybe this will resonate with some people here." And here's what his article said that he posted on his LinkedIn. He said, "I didn't try to close, but I did." So let me open up that article. And if you guys are on there, you can even follow along with it. Here's what he says. "I didn't try to close, but I did." And then he kind of goes into a narrative here. He says, "Rob," so somebody's asking him this question, a prospect's asking him this, "Rob, can I ask you a question?" And he says, "Of course. How long have you been in the sales industry?" And Rob he's talking here. He says, "Well, I wasn't expecting that question from my prospect. I thought he was going to ask me about iPads or event technology or something else around what my company did." And Rob said, "Sales per se, about 5 years. I've been with this company for about 3 months now." And then his prospect said, "Oh, wow, really?" And then Rob says, "Well, yeah, why do you ask?" And the prospect said, "It's just, well, you're really good at it." And then Rob said, "Well, how would you respond when a prospect who's yet to buy says that to you?" And like I said, if you're on the 21-Day Sales Challenge thread, Facebook thread, you can read what Robbie actually wrote along here with me. It'll probably sink in a little bit more. So he says, "How would you respond when a prospect who's yet to buy says that to you?" Hopefully better than me. I wasn't expecting, and as multiple admirers will tell you, suck at taking compliments, so I blundered somewhat. And I said, okay, thank you. And then the prospect said this, "You haven't tried to close me, but you just did." I want you to think about that. You haven't tried to close me, but you just did. You haven't tried to sell me anything, but you just have. You haven't tried to sell me anything, but you just have. You have just made a sale. Here you are talking to me about my business, my problems. You've even got me thinking about new ways of doing things and rethinking my entire project. You have to understand, Rob, I get 3 or 4 sale calls every day, and I avoid all of them. So this is his prospect telling Rob this. You have to understand, Rob, I get 3 or 4 calls, sales calls every day, and I avoid all of them. They all want to tell me about their products and their clients and how amazing they are, and it pisses me off. I straighten myself up before my inflated ego tips me over. But here you are. You haven't pushed anything down my throat. We've had a really good chat, and for that reason, you are the one I will use. So I want to say thank you. Okay, so that's what the prospect said to Robbie, who's barely been through some of the 8-Week Academy, only 4 of the trainings of the 8-Week Academy. Week number 4 and week 3 through 8 is where you learn really everything. That's the whole everything of the new model of selling, besides our, like I said, our live training and one-on-one coaching. And here's what Robbie said in the rest of his article that he wrote on LinkedIn. "I'm not a sales guru, so I welcome any other opinions you might have, but this is what I think. Firstly, this particular prospect was an inbound lead. They had visited my company's website and entered their details requesting a quotation on our services, among other courses. So there was no cold call, no hook line introduction, no initial objection battling process. Some might argue that this prospect was entering the buying cycle through choice, and I'm therefore just facilitating a sale. That's a fair statement, but I think there is at least a little more to it. Here's what I did, and in fact, continue to try to do on every call, inbound or outbound. I detached myself from selling." Write that down. I detached myself from selling. Now, if you guys are members of the 8-Week Academy, we very specifically go over what that means. I think I addressed it a little bit in the 21-Day Sales Challenge. Like I said, the 21-Day Sales Challenge is just a very basic intro to my training. It's less than 3%. So remember, in several of the weeks, I say top salespeople, those who get into the top 1% of their industry and the top 1% of all salespeople selling anything, are the best at detaching themselves from the expectation of making the sale And instead, they're focusing on whether there's a sale to be made in the first place. Let me repeat what I said by that, okay? The top salespeople in the world, those who have mastered the art of communication, are the best at detaching themselves from the expectation of making the sale, and instead they focus on whether there's a sale to be made in the first place. And then he gives a quote here. He says, "Today I will commit myself to detachment. I will allow myself and those around me the freedom to be as they are. I will not rigidly oppose my idea of how things should be. I will not force solutions on problems, thereby creating new problems. I will participate in everything with detached involvement." And he quotes the law of detachment. I've never actually seen that before. I think that's pretty cool. And he said, that's right. I almost do the opposite of what traditional salespeople are taught and encouraged how to do. Covey tells us begin with the end in mind. And so typically we translate this into focusing the conversation with our prospects into where we want them to be, moving the call along towards a close or a seemingly natural say in our presentation or feature benefit pitch. So this is what Robbie is talking about when he was talking about his prospect. If you just join the card, I'm reading an article that one of our members who's having amazing results in sales training, even though he's just barely started going through it, is getting in an event, in a sale that he just won with what a prospect told him. He says, Jordan Belfort's, and I think that's Wolf on Wall Street, Jordan Belfort's straight line system, that's another sales training program, even has some excellent principles on how to do this. Move the prospect into our way of thinking. ABC, always be closing. But then he says this, but is this what we really want to do? You see, the new model salesperson, this is still him talking, not me. The new model salesperson understands I can pronounce this word factor, the need to serve before you sell. So the new model salesperson understands the need to serve before you sell, not only because the psychology of a prospect instigates a return, the you scratch my back, I scratch yours theory, but because credibility and the need to position yourself as a trusted authority and expert in your field is becoming more important in a culture of solution selling and thought leadership marketing. Do you guys hear what he's saying? Traditional selling techniques, because of where we live at today in our society in 2016, because our culture of solution selling and thought leadership marketing and becoming a trusted authority in our market is becoming ever so important. If you keep using these techniques that were taught in the stone ages of selling, I'm going to be very real with you. You're going to keep getting the exact results you're getting right now. Nothing will ever change for you. I don't know any top salesperson that makes $500,000 a year, $700,000 a year, over $1 million a year that would ever even touch old traditional selling techniques, because they know our culture and our society has grown out of those. And consumers in our time, and I always tell you guys, and I always train you this in the training periods, they will not be talked at and sold. They will not be pushed and manipulated because they know they have many other choices to choose the exact same product or service you sell because of the power of the internet and especially because of the power of social media. So if we keep using those techniques, and guys, I'm going to tell you, when I first got into sales, that's how I learned as well. I didn't know there was anything else out there. But once I learned the new model of selling for our time, my results 10x'd what I was getting. I went from making about $250,000 to $300,000 a year as a salesperson to making over $2.4 million a year net income selling the exact same product I was selling before at my sales job. I want you to think about that for a second, okay? So let's keep going with what he said here. He then says, I also listened. Now, hopefully, we should all know how important listening is. We all know that a good salesperson has 2 ears and 1 mouth and uses them in that order. But are we really doing it? And if you are, do you know why? Are you listening in the hope that you're going to hear that all-important business pain so you can interject with some amazing features of your product and step in with your pitch, benefit puking all over your prospect? I thought that was kind of funny when Robbie said that. He also goes on to say, we all know someone who, no matter the context of the conversation, whether it's school, work, or down at the pub, finds a way to spin the conversation and talk about themselves. the one who's been there, done that, got the T-shirt, me, it's irritating, right? Is it possible that you might be on a sales call when you start talking about so he says, is it possible that might be you on a sales call when you start talking about your services? I want you to think about that. Is that you? Are you that person that always talks about themselves and how everything you have is the greatest, the best, and blah, 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 like every salesperson says? Now, I'm not suggesting you don't market yourself. That's your job. I'm also not suggesting that those, and this is what Robbie's saying in the article, I'm also not suggesting that those little nuggets of information about your prospect problems aren't what you're looking for. But don't listen for buying signals. They are a byproduct of a prospect-driven conversation. When they arise, you will hear them, but it's not always an invitation. Well, with our company, we actually can help you with that. Just know it's clumsy and awkward, and you can look like a twat. This is what Robbie's saying in his article. I'm just quoting him. Instead, ask because you are genuinely interested. And if you're not, then hang up the phone. This prospect isn't for you. Detaching yourself from the expectation of making a sale, this is what Robbie's saying, releases so much pressure off yourself that your energy and focus transfers towards the client, and the best part of it all is that it's genuine. And I can't agree more with Robbie. He goes on to say this. This story ends with a prospect who becomes a client and thanks you for being it. Being in sales across multiple industries, I can tell you it doesn't happen enough. I'm employed to make money for my employer, probably like you. Business development, account management, upselling, cross-selling, networking, whatever it takes to raise revenue and make the stakeholders happy. But I don't really concentrate on that stuff. I concentrate on my customers, and in return, the results are far more rewarding. So this, like I said, I'm quoting Robbie's article here. So Robbie goes on to finish the article here that he posted on LinkedIn. Try this. Call a prospect, preferably one with some rapport, or maybe even an existing client, and have a chat with them about them and them alone. Resist to urge them mention your company's products and services completely. It may feel odd at first, but try it. Ask them about what's happening in their business, in their team and department. Challenge their viewpoints. And this is Jeremy talking. We train you that in the 8-Week Academy, and question why they make the decisions that they do, respectfully, of course. Ultimately, you'll gain insight into industries and infrastructures you probably previously have had, improving knowledge and credibility. But you're also stepping aside from the salesperson's stigma your prospects have about you. And if they're ready to buy, they will buy from you. Read what my client said at the top of this article again and see if this rings true for you. So, Robbie, if you're on this training call, it's a great article that you posted on the training that you're learning here from the new model of selling. So we really appreciate you posting this. Like I said, we probably get 50-plus testimonials a day, especially on our ads, probably from some of you guys. We get them, and I love them. So I want you to keep posting those results. Don't ever stop telling us what you're learning and basically how we can improve to make your experience even better and how we can better serve you. But definitely post your results that you're actually getting, because they inspire the community, maybe new members who are barely starting the training, to really dig in and start really working on the training. Now, let's go over a little bit of training today. Like I said, if you just joined us, this call is going to be really short today. I'm in Arizona. My video crew, film crew is actually here in Arizona. We're shooting a bunch of videos with coaches that will be rolling out a coaching platform program for you guys that will actually train you and take you through the 21-Day Sales Challenge one-on-one. We'll take you through the 8-Week Academy one-on-one and actually help you tie in your specific product or service to your industry. Pretty cool stuff. So we're filming that right now, so my video team is sitting here watching me do this call. So we're going to cut this call very short today. Usually it's a 90-minute call. Today we'll probably do about 30 minutes. Okay? So I get this, a lot of people ask me this question, so I wanted to go over it today. And that's how to answer the objection of why should we go with you. Okay, so a lot of times you guys hear that as salespeople, right? You barely meet them, and they just jokingly say, well, Dave or Amy, why should we go with you? Why should we go with your company? Like, what sets you apart from the other companies? Okay, and I want you to think about what is a typical response to this by the average salesperson, and ask yourself, how do you?
Jeremy, if you can hear me, we can't hear you.
Hey, it's Jeremy. Somehow I got kicked off here, so it's probably just there, man. Hold on one second.
Good.
All right. So let's go over this quick objection here that some of you guys get. I'm going to give you something really powerful to use this, okay? So from the salespeople that typically come to me with this type of question, like, hey, how do I answer a prospect when they say, well, why should we go with you, okay? And especially how to answer it at the very beginning when I first barely meet them because they feel like they're put on the spot and then they have to go into their pitch, right? So, and I'm going to give you an example. I actually wrote this blog about 3.5 months ago, so you might have actually read this before, but for you who have read it before, it's probably a good reminder. So let's say that you're selling cars for this example, okay? And the prospect says, Amy, why should we go with you? Why should we buy a car from your company? And what does the average salesperson usually respond to that? I'm going to give you an example. Here's typically what the average salesperson would say, and usually their tonality, they get defensive a little bit, okay, right? You might have noticed yourself in that situation. So the average salesperson would say, well, why wouldn't you go with this? I mean, we've been rated the #1 dealer here. We in the city, we've got the best price on this car. You know, we've got the best customer service. You know, we have a great promotion going on. I mean, why wouldn't you go with this? And then they keep listing the benefits and features of what they sell, okay? But the problem with this approach is what? Of telling and trying to persuade your potential customer to go with you is what? Well, once again, who's it focused on? Who's it focused on? It's focused on you and your agenda of trying to make the sale rather than focused on your prospect, what their problems are, how those problems happen, to see if what you do can actually help them. So if you're trying to persuade them instead of asking skilled questions, that allows them to persuade themselves, okay? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to persuade them yourself rather than asking questions that would allow them to close or persuade themselves. And we talked about this some in the training, right? Behavioral science has proven what? That telling someone what they should do, being pushy with them, and doing a sales pitch or presentation is the least effective form of selling and persuasion. It's the least effective form, according to behavioral science studies. So the question is, if you're still doing that, why do you keep doing it thinking it's actually going to work? And I'll tell you why. Because salespeople keep selling the same way they've always sold most of the time because, you know, they'll talk to 20 people and it'll work on one, so they think it just magically works. When they should be talking to those 20 people, and if they had the right communication skills, they would have 13 or 14 of those 20 people actually purchase what they're selling rather than 1 or 2. And I always relate it to it's like golf, right? You keep playing golf. Why? Because you have a couple of good shots, and the rest of your shots are horrible, but you keep playing it because you feel good when you have those few shots. So people use traditional sales techniques are like golfers, like average golfers. They keep selling because, you know, every once in a while they get a sale, and so they think it, you know, they feel good, and so they keep doing it that way, thinking that somehow it works, whereas they could be closing 10 times what they're closing if they had the right communication skills, okay? So what usually happens 80 to 90% of the time when you get defensive and you start listing your features and benefits and the prospect says, why should we go with you? What usually happens? Have you noticed how your prospects react to that? They usually do what? They get defensive, right? They throw up the wall, right? I always call it the objection wall. And then they let out objections, and a lot of times they don't choose you and they go with somebody else. So here's my suggestion. Instead of trying to tell them why they should go with you, why not find out more about why they asked you this question in the first place and what's actually behind it? You see the difference there? So here's how the 7-figure salesperson would respond to that. And I'm going to give you an example of the right way to do this. So let's say at the very beginning you walk into your prospect's office and they say, hey, Brian, I'm glad you're here. Tell me a little bit about your company. I mean, why should we go with you? You're just really abrupt because you have sometimes they're abrupt, you know, quick people that they want to hear it quick. Okay, so here's how you'd respond. So Brian, why should we go with you? Well, Mr. Smith, I'm not quite convinced that you should yet. Well, John, I'm not quite convinced that you should yet. And it might be appropriate if I knew a little bit more about you and your company, and really what you're looking for, if anything, to see if I can even help you in the first place. So let me repeat that, and then I'm going to go back and explain why we would do it that way. So Alex, why should we go with you? Well, John, I'm not quite convinced that you should yet. And it might be appropriate if we asked each other a few questions to find out a little bit more about you and what you're looking for, if anything, to see if I can even help you in the first place. For example, and then you're going to ask a background situation question. Okay? Now, let's go back and analyze that. When I said, well, Mr. Smith, I'm not quite convinced that you should yet, you're going to pause for 3 seconds. Okay? You're going to say this. The seven-figure salesperson says this with extreme confidence, yet in a calm manner. Not being mean, not being a jerk. Confidence, I call it collective confidence. Okay, master communicators are the best at collective confidence. Write that down. So when your prospect sees that you are completely detached from making the sale, we talked about that in Robbie's article that he wrote on LinkedIn a minute ago. When they see that you're detached from trying to make that sale, they will actually start to feel that you're there to help them and not just sell them something. Do you see the difference there? So instead of you looking just like another annoying, dreaded salesperson in their mind who's only there trying to stuff, a solution down their throat, they're now going to start looking at you as someone who they actually trust, who's there to help them, not sell them. And the best part is they're always going to be open to you and go deeper in the conversation and be truthful with you rather than being dishonest with you, trying to get rid of you. So now they start to view you as an insider, a trusted authority rather than an outsider. And do you know why that is? It's because now they're starting to look at you as someone who they trust. Okay? Trust is king if you want to be in the top 1% of all salespeople in your industry. I would tell you that 100%, especially in our day and age. Then you will say this question, and it's more of a statement question, but and let's do this. John, I'm not quite convinced that you should yet. And it might be appropriate if we ask each other a few questions to find out kind of your present situation and what you're looking for, if anything, to see if I can help you in the first place. Okay, do you see how that rolled off? And then you're going to start asking a few what I call situation or background questions to find out what their present situation really is, right? Like where are they at right now? What their problems are, if any, because maybe they don't have problems. We're detached, right? We're just trying to find out. That's why we ask those questions, and really why they have those problems, and what caused those, and really how it's affecting them emotionally. So let me give you a few examples of situation questions or background questions. We talk about those in week 3 of the 8-Week Academy. So if you sell cars, you might ask, well, and for example, what type of car do you actually drive now? Let's say that you're in financial services. For example, what type of investments are you currently in, or what do you do for investing now? Let's say you sell different types of life insurance or car insurance or health insurance. It doesn't really matter, any type of insurance. And what type of insurance do you have now, or what type of policy do you have with your insurance company now? You see, the new model of selling, it doesn't matter what you sell. If you sell pens or cars or yachts or real estate or investment products, or if you sell jumbo jets, or if you're a lobbyist or a politician, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same principles and the same structure. Okay? Now, what we're going to do real quick, we're going to open up the time for Q&A. Guys, guys and gals, I do apologize if you just jumped on the call. This is going to be a very short training call today. This is normally 90 minutes. We're going to do this here in about 35 to 40 minutes today. I'm in Arizona still in production right now for you guys, rolling out our coaching one-on-one program that we're going to release September 30th for you guys as well. So we've got to keep this quick. My video team is staring at me right now, wondering why I'm taking so long. So if you've got a question real quick, I want you to press *6 on your phone with your question. Let me know who you are, what industry you're in, what you sell, and then what your question is. Like I said, I'm only going to be able to take probably a couple of questions today. All right. Who's
Hey, Jeremy, this is Ben Meyer.
This is Ben?
Yeah. How's it going?
Hey, Ben. Nice to meet you. What do you sell, Ben?
Real estate.
Sell real estate, like commercial real estate, homes. What do you sell?
So wholesale properties and also retail just buy and sell residential.
Okay. Did you ask me a question last week?
A few weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, you sound familiar. That's what I thought. Okay, and then what products of mine do you have, just so I know what your understanding is of the new model?
So I went through the 8-week training course.
Okay.
I've been on through the 21-day sales challenge. Can't remember what all you have, but I've been through all of it.
So you've gone through all the 8-week academy. Good. Okay, good. What's your question, brother?
Well, I'm trying to figure out the best way to fully adopt and integrate this way of doing things, because old habits die hard of using a lot of I language instead of more the you-based language you have. What's your best recommendation to most quickly adopt like this question track, if you will, instead of a talk track?
Best recommendation is to decide that you're going to actually make those changes, right? So it's like if somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey, Jeremy, I'm eating a lot of ice cream. It's really hard because I'm 150 pounds overweight, and what's the best way for me to stop eating ice cream?" I wouldn't say like, "Hey, you need to go on a diet or go see this person." I would say, "Well, you need to first decide that you're going to stop," right? So my suggestion would be is really decide that you want much bigger results in your sales career. So, and I'm going to ask some poignant questions now. Using traditional sales methods, how much income do you typically make on a yearly basis using those methods?
So I was making about $75,000.
Okay.
And that's where I'm at now on pace. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So that's where that's got you, right? And I say that to everybody. Like, until we realize that our way of thinking and way of doing things has gotten us exactly where we're at in our lives right now, it's hard to ever make changes, right? And I think you're there, right? I think when you go through the 8-week academy, you're like, okay, I think selling really has changed, and, here's some training where I can actually do something about it, right? So the first thing is really to actually, and that's why week 1 and week 2 of the 8-week academy are all about your mindset and the psychology of the new model of selling. So if you skim through those real quick, like, okay, I get it, to really get to the heart of where all the training's at in week 3 through 8, I would suggest going back through week 1 and 2 and really start to take notes, start to apply it. So Robbie's article, were you on for the entire call?
Yes.
Okay, so Robbie's article that I just read, do you hear the key things he said there? Once I decided to detach myself from making the sale, and I instead focused on them and what they were looking for to see if I can help them, then sales started coming in rapidly. Because I will tell you, just like that prospect said to him, you're completely different. Do you hear what that prospect said to me? He's like, I get 3 to 4 sales calls every day, and I avoid them. I get rid of them because they piss me off and they annoy me because all they talk about is how great their products are and how great their clients are and how great they can do for us. So if you sound like that, what do you think is going on in your prospect's mind? Same thing, right? Like, how do I get rid of this guy, right?
Just another realtor.
Just another realtor trying to sell me something. They don't look at you as the trusted authority. They just look at you as another realtor like, okay, this guy's a realtor. He might be good. How can I negotiate him down on price? Like, that's what they're going to think about. They're just going to use you, right? But when they looked at somebody as a trusted authority, they would never do that because they have so much respect and trust for you that they would never, ever go with anyone else, even if your fees are double the fees. It doesn't matter because they view you as the trusted authority. So when you detach yourself and you learn those skilled questions asked, like skilled situation questions that we teach in week 3, skilled problem awareness questions that we teach in week 4, skilled solution awareness questions in week 5, and so on in the academy. When we roll out this one-on-one coaching program, if you opt into that, where one of my 7-figure coaches trains you how to basically tie in your product or service to the training, get it even more specific. Once you learn those questions along with the mindset of being detached and really listening to them, you're going to go from $75,000 a year to $75,000 a month. It's a night and day difference. I had realtors that I've trained that made $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year that now make $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year, selling the exact same thing, working half as many hours. Right? They don't have to work all day Sunday and all day Saturday and miss their family's life. They just work a normal schedule. They tell their clients when they're available for them by appointment only on their calendar, and they don't drive around Friday night showing homes at 7:30 or 8 at night, or Saturday, missing their kids' ball games. They don't have to, because they're looked at as a trusted authority, and their clients move around their schedules to actually go look at homes and those type of things when their realtor, when they are actually available for them, not the other way around. So that's what I'm going to teach you in that Week Academy. So my suggestion, long story short, go back to week 1 and week 2, really study the psychology and the mindset. Guys, it takes practice, Ben. I mean, how long have you had the training? A month?
Yeah, but it's kind of just practice when you're just doing the same thing over and over. It's just same results. So
you've been here a month, Ben. I mean, realize, I didn't become a multiple 7-figure earner in my sales profession after 3 or 4 weeks, right?
Sure.
There's things that I had to learn. That mindset will come as you continually hone the craft and as you practice. If you make it a point of spending 30 minutes to an hour a day on this and really hone it in, you're going to get major results. If you spend 30 minutes every other week on it, well, just like anything, you're probably not going to get major results. With what I'm teaching you, it's actually really easy to learn if you commit yourself to actually learning it, practicing it, writing down questions, tying it into your specific industry. Like I said, the one-on-one coaching program, that's why I developed it, because everybody's been asking me for it. Like, hey, I need to be trained one-on-one, but, unfortunately, I'm only one person. I can't train everybody one-on-one, right? So those type of things are going to help you go from $75,000 a year to, $300,000 a year, from $300,000 to $500,000 a year, from $500,000 to $700,000, and move up in increments and work far less hours. Make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. 30 minutes to an hour a day makes a lot of sense, because it seems like after I listen to stuff, then I can do it, but then I get away from it and I go back to what I was doing before.
Yeah, so it feels natural, right? It feels like, it's like riding a bike. You're like, oh, I'm just going to go back to my sales pitch because that's what I've always done, and I know how to pitch my product really good. But the only issue is just
a lot of I language, what I can do for you instead of you. What do you want? How can you? What would you do? All that. So and
we got to get rid of that. Yeah, you get rid of that I language and replace with them language, right? Where we are focused on them and their world. And then at that point, at the appropriate time, you can show them how what you do could possibly help them. And you even say that neutral, okay?
Yeah.
So good question, man. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your time. It's great insight.
Hey, no problem, man. That's why we do these calls. Okay, so a couple other things. I just wanted to announce this, guys. So if you're just jumping on the call as well, we're having a much shorter call today. My video crew is here. I'm in Arizona, actually, this week doing a bunch of filming for our one-on-one coaching program that's going to be rolling out for you guys September 30th. I know some of you guys have asked for that. So we're going to keep this call out shorter. And I will tell you the next 2 weeks are only going to be Q&A weeks. There'll be about 45-minute Q&As in both weeks. I do apologize, but I have promised my wife. She's from Poland. And we always go over to Poland every August for about 2 weeks to visit her family. And we're leaving on Friday, actually, to do that. I'm leaving on Friday to do that. She's already there. So the next 2 training calls I'm still going to do for you guys. It'll be like 9 or 10 o'clock at night over in Poland. But I'm still going to do those for you. I'm dedicated to making sure you guys are successful and learning the new model and whatever you sell. So, but the next 2 weeks, there'll be 45-minute trainings, but they're all going to be Q&A, which is cool. I mean, that's really where you learn the most on the Q&A anyways. All right, guys, we got time for one more question. Who's got the last question today? Star 6. Star 6, guys, just come out. What's your question?
Jeremy.
Yeah, who's this?
Tom DeLegro.
Tom, hey, Tom, awesome. Now you sell, I know you've asked a few questions before. You sell health, or you sell like employee benefits or something, right?
Employee benefits, major medical, and right to the chase. I know you have limited time. The problem statement. It is listening to you today, listening to Robbie's post, listening to what you just told the gentleman for me. Hugely important, because I feel like I'm in that same kind of rut. I primarily am doing telemarketing almost exclusively at this point until I can join some networking groups and get some FaceTime. But that I almost can't get past the would you be open to before people are immediately shutting down. And I don't know if it's not getting to the right person, if it's the language, but how have you?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I have to really hear your tonality. that's the biggest issue. It's not necessarily just the words you're using; it's how you're using those words. It's the speed. It's the pausing. Does it sound scripted? I mean, I'd really actually like to hear you do one, like record one of those. That actually probably would help me. And I'll even do this for you. And I'm not going to do this for everybody because everybody's like, yeah, let me record myself. And I'm going to, tomorrow I'll wake up to like 700 people's recordings. You have time. So if you record yourself on one of those calls and I can hear it, I can help you. And one thing that might possibly help you, Tom, when we roll out the one-on-one coaching September 30th, if one of my coaches actually heard what you were doing, because they go through and they rewrite the whole sales process for you guys. That's what they do. They just rewrite it to your product or service, okay? But they hear what you're actually doing, and then they can correct it very easily. But sometimes it's hard, like if you get posts like, hey, here's my problem statement on Facebook, and then you're like, well, some people are, it's good, some people are not, but I can't hear the tonality. It's hard for me to really know exactly why.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I will say that initially it did definitely sound scripted because I was flat out reading it. Okay, it was practicing, and then, then you memorize it, you start reciting it, and after a couple hundred, I don't mean it literally, but you almost don't even care anymore, and that's all. What I'm gathering is that's almost the point. Is not that you say it callously. It's just you kind of just say it in monotone and. I don't know if that's too far in the opposite side of scripting.
You have to really detach yourself, Tom. And I mean that, detach yourself. So what I would call, that problem statement, you're just basically detaching yourself from the expectation, and you're like I always tell you guys, you're focused on whether or not you can actually help that individual, and you have to walk away. It's like, hey, I might not be able to help them, right? So when somebody answers the phone, I would just be, when I cold call, they'd be like, hey, yeah, this is Amy at XYZ Company. Hey, Amy, this is Jeremy. I was wondering if you guys could possibly help me out for a moment. And usually they're like, yeah, sure. How can we help you?
Yep.
And then so that's working for you. So you're doing that right?
No, I get the help. They agree to help, and then as soon as you mention benefits, anything related to insurance, it's no thanks and collect.
Well, that's the issue. So you got to change that in your problem statement. If you're mentioning benefits, that's obviously something that triggers what in their mind?
Resistance, right?
Resistance, right? So that must be, for your industry, that must be a very common term that salespeople use when they call. So that's negative language, and you want to remove that completely. You don't want to say benefits. So in your problem statement, we would need to come up with something different than benefits because that's triggering that reaction. See how that works?
Right.
Guys, you have to understand, and this is for everybody, certain words you say and use automatically trigger objections to happen. So it's not them objecting, it's your way of communicating to them that's causing the objection. I'm not just talking to Tommy, I'm talking to everybody. There are certain words you use that they are familiar from other sellers selling what you sell that trigger them to think, this is a salesperson, I need to get rid of them. Just so you guys are aware of that. Once you remove those words, those things don't trigger. So they don't try to get rid of you. Okay? So Tom, my suggestion is go back to your problem statement, take out benefits for sure, because that's obviously triggering something, right? And that's the issue. And we'd have to look at your problem statement. Yeah, I don't know what we have. I've got to hurry, guys, and I apologize.
No, that's fine. Listen, we'll pick it up next week, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, and post that. And we're going to do a 45-minute all Q&A next week, so that'll be awesome because I can probably spend 10 or 15 minutes working on your problem statement.
All right.
But post it for me again on that Facebook thread, and when I have time, I've got a flight out here tomorrow morning. When I have time on that flight tomorrow morning, I'm going to look at that and try to come up with something besides benefits because that's triggering them to react that way. Once we take that out, you shouldn't get any resistance.
All right.
Cool?
Great. Thanks.
Okay, guys. That concludes our call today. Thanks for everybody being on. This call it's obviously recorded, so it'll be posted later tonight or first thing in the morning. And I will see everybody next week. I'll be live in Poland, but we'll still do a 45-minute Q&A next week, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. I think Poland time is going to be about 10 Eastern or 10 their time, but I will be there ready to go. See you guys then.